Yo, what is going on, guys? I hope you're all having a great day today, at least a better day than the individual we're going to be covering today, because he is not very happy, okay? He is not very happy, of course, that people dare criticize Nintendo, their greed, and the Switch too. So yeah, this is basically just going to be another classic response video, so I don't really want to waste much time. Basically, everything he's talking about in this video is everything everyone's been talking about on the internet for the past couple of weeks, so yeah, let's just get straight into this. The title of the gem we're going to be taking a look at today is called Nintendo Switch 2 Price is Fine. What the hell is wrong with everyone? And of course, in this guy's thumbnail it says, too much clickbait, because everything you dislike on the internet is automatically clickbait. Do people seriously think this shit still works? This is like calling everything you dislike racist and sexist. Everyone with more than 2 brain cells to bang together knows that's bullshit, and they know you're just throwing the buzzword there in hopes that people will blindly believe you, even though you're likely lying. But now we got the name of the video, the thumbnail, and everything else out of the way, we can go ahead and jump straight into this shit.
Alright boys, I'm seeing a lot of other people put out these clickbaity videos.
That's right, everything this guy dislikes is clickbait.
Complaining about the Switch and its price point and everything like that.
I wonder why they're complaining. It's almost like they expected it to be cheaper and they're being priced out of their favorite hobby. Who am I kidding? They're just entitled brats, am I right, guys?
And I realized that while today I had a crap ton of videos focusing on my reaction to the latest, greatest announcements from Nintendo, I didn't really have one dedicated to talking about the actual price of the system and the games themselves.
And you know, after watching this video, I completely understand why, and I'd have no issue if you kept it that way. Unfortunately, that's not the world we live in. Because in all honesty, this is one of the worst defenses for the Switch 2 I've ever seen, and I've seen some bad defenses on the internet over the past couple weeks, trust me.
So for those of you that don't know, the Nintendo Switch is going to start pre-orders April 9th and is going to be available June 5th, with the launch title being the new Mario Kart game. I'm excited about it.
And honestly, I don't think anyone has an issue with that. Like, if you're excited for the new Mario Kart, more power to you, man. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and say that you can't buy this game because I don't like the price of it. That would be insane. However, I am absolutely going to, and if you've been on YouTube for the past 2 weeks, you've probably seen that other people are absolutely going to share their dissatisfaction with the price of this product. There's nothing wrong with being excited. What people take issue with, especially with this video that you made, is the fact that you're running damage control.
The console is going to end up having a $450 US price point on its own, with $500 USD, including the Mario Kart game. Me being Canadian, that means that the system is ultimately going to cost $700 at the most, the highest value with the Mario Kart.
Let me point this out as someone who's Canadian. 85%, that is almost 9 in 10 people in Canada, are living paycheck to paycheck. Meaning 9 out of 10 Canadians pretty much are dirt fucking poor. And I have a sneaking suspicion that this guy is not rich by any means. Most people don't want to be poor and would rather be more financially stable if it means not having a video game console. And that's why they're upset with the price of the Switch 2. Nintendo used to be the affordable option, and now we're sitting here at 700 Canadian for a Switch 2. A console, by the way, that's about as powerful as a PS4/PS4 Pro that came out when? Back in 2013 to 2016? I don't remember when the Pro came out.
I don't think that the price point is good, but I don't think it's bad either. And I think that people are really blowing this out of proportion because they need to shut the fuck up. They're gonna buy it anyways, so I don't know why there's all this toxicity around it.
Yeah, people who are grifting might buy it regardless when they're complaining about it, but me personally, I'm not buying it unless I can either get it secondhand for cheap, or mainly if they lower the price of video games themselves. Because we're gonna get into that point. That's the main point that people are against, is the more expensive games, not the price of the console itself. Like, don't get me wrong, the console's expensive, but it's 120Hz and it's 1080p, and it's very similarly priced to the ROG Ally. But you say people need to shut the fuck up. Why? Because you don't like what they're saying? because they're offending you because you like this billion-dollar corporation they're criticizing? Bro, this sounds pathetic.
But that's the internet. That's the way it is right now. Everyone just complains about everything constantly, and I'm sick of it. I'm here to say that this Nintendo Direct was insanely awesome, and it blew the pants off of the competition.
You know, if you're sick of people complaining, the best course of action might not be to upload a video, you know, complaining that other people are complaining about the price of something. Just saying.
But what about the game costs themselves? Apparently they're gonna be $80 US. Not 90, like people are saying, $80 US.
What he's referring to is the fact that there was Mario Kart in Europe for $90 US if you bought the physical version, which I think could become a reality if $80 games become the norm sometime in the future. But I guess he somewhat has a point here. Games are not going to cost $90 US, they're going to be $80 US, which is still terrible.
Which means that for me, Nintendo Switch games already ended up costing 100 Canadian, and now they're going to end up costing 120, roughly. So they're $20 more.
They're about $106 Canadian at the moment. I remember I bought Tears of the Kingdom and Space Marine 2, and they totaled to about $106 each. Which for a fucking video game is insane. Video games should not be $106, especially not Tears of the Kingdom where they kind of reused a map and the exact same art style and mechanics as the first game. Obviously minus all the building shit they added. But keep in mind, when games go up to 120 Canadian, that's before tax, and taxes are pretty fucking high in Canada. Where I live, you have to pay about 14 or 15% tax on everything that you buy. So if you buy a $100 video game, you're gonna pay 14 to 15 extra dollars. And most places in Canada have at least a 13% sales tax.
As much as this is a tough pill for a lot of people to swallow, myself included, I think that people take for granted the fact that video games as an art form and as a product are significantly cheaper than what you actually get out of them. I will say my argument makes a lot more sense than people just needlessly whining and complaining, because I don't think that a lot of games are worth $120. That's the problem. But the idea that I can potentially upgrade a Switch 1 game into a Switch 2 edition for $20 is far better than the PS4 to PS5 upgrade price point.
Yeah, and drinking a piss sundae is better than eating a shit sandwich. Why should you have to pay extra to utilize the hardware you already bought? Imagine I upgraded from my 4070 to a 4080, and I went to up the max frame rate, and I had to pay. That is basically the same thing that's going on with the Switch 2, and y'all are defending it. Trust me, I know PlayStation did it and lots of PlayStation fanboys defended them. But they're morons, so it doesn't matter what they have to say. That's greedy, and it's greedy when Nintendo does it too.
And on top of that, I think that Nintendo is jumping the gun with the price point of their games, because as much as everyone's complaining, what's going to actually happen later in the year is Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to come out and set the new standard price for AAA games, which in this case is probably going to be $120, maybe even more, meaning that the Switch games, or the Switch 2 games rather, would actually be cheaper than most AAA games moving forward past GTA 6.
But we have no idea if GTA 6 is going to be $100. Some journalists suggested it, and people like me spoke out, obviously. But I think Nintendo just kinda gave Rockstar the go-ahead. They can use the same variable pricing bullshit excuse, and now games are going to be $100, possibly.
We don't know if that's true or not, but suffice to say, would I gladly pay 120 Canadian dollars for a Mario Kart, a Metroid Prime 4? Hell yes. But when it comes to other games that I'm not super into, suddenly that buying point of entry is way too expensive.
And see, you admit it here. You know it's a problem and that it could be a huge issue for the industry. If they told me that Doom the Dark Ages would have a 40-hour campaign and it would be the most expansive Doom ever and they were pricing it at 120 Canadian, I would be very tempted to go and buy that game because of how much I love Doom and loved Doom Eternal. But I would still speak out against it given the consequences it could cause for everyone else. Because while I might be okay paying 120 Canadian for Doom, I understand that it might have an effect on the rest of the industry, and now games that I don't care about as much might be at that price point, so I still feel obligated to speak out. And before I end off this video, there's one more argument that I would like to address. and that is that games adjusted for inflation are more expensive. NES games adjusted for inflation would be more expensive today. You mean back when you actually owned the game when you went and bought it? You mean back when you could support a family off a single income? You mean back when gaming was more niche so they weren't guaranteed to sell as many copies of their game? You mean back when it was a lot harder to make games? You mean back when they had to spend a lot more money making games because of the physical cartridges on the NES? You mean back when you got the entire game the second you bought it and there was no DLC packs? You mean back when there was no microtransactions? You mean back when there was giant graphical leaps between consoles and everything looked completely different, like jumps from 2D to 3D? You mean back then? You mean back when you didn't have to pay online subscriptions to use the consoles you already bought? You mean back when you didn't have to replace your controller every 3 months because of stick drift? You mean back when we had things like Virtual Console where you could actually play older games without having to subscribe to shit? Oh, you mean back then. Back when you didn't have series like The Last of Us that they would release more remakes and remasters than actual entries in the series. You mean back when we had shit like Player's Choice that allowed people to get good games for cheap. I mean seriously, Nintendo games don't even get sales anymore. I could keep going with this argument, but I think you get the point. If you liked this video, make sure to smash that like button harder than you smash your Joy-Con every time it gets stick drift. Alright, I'm out.